Hi everyone, I'm glad to see you and welcome back to Hyper Games Conference. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Shai Sasson, Head of Publishing at CrazyLabs, with the topic A Deep Dive into CrazyLabs Transparency. Shai, stage is all yours.
Thank you, Stacy. Nice to meet you all. Thanks for joining this talk. And as mentioned, today we'll talk about transparency and what kind of transparency you need when partnering with a publisher. For those who don't know me, my name is Shai. I'm the head of publishing here at CrazyLabs. So I manage the publishing team worldwide that works with studios from very early stages of their hyper casual idea until the game reaches the top charts and generates nice profits for them. And I'm always looking for interesting studios and partners who would like to partner with CrazyLabs and test hyper casual games. Some of the topics that we'll discuss is Click Dashboard and what kind of transparency tools we use in Click Dashboard in throughout the testing and publishing process with CrazyLabs, and hopefully we'll have a few moments for Q&A. So for those who don't know CrazyLabs is one of the top biggest hyper casual publishers. We're soon going to reach 6 billion downloads to all of our games, which is a very nice milestone, and we have over 250 million monthly active users. So what is Click Dashboard? Imagine you as a studio partner with a publisher in order to test your potential hyper casual hit game. But you live in a black box and you have no idea what's going on with your game. And you're not exposed to a lot of metrics and data points that are very critical for you as a developer in order to understand how your game performs, how can you improve it, and what's good and bad about it. In this way, we have Click Dashboard. So Click Dashboard is a tool where you'll be able to fully see your data on your game in almost real time throughout the whole testing and publishing process. Click Dashboard is available on your desktop computer and on your mobile app. So let's talk about the publishing and testing process. And in the presentation today, we'll go through each one of these steps and understand what is the level of transparency that is required for you as a developer and what can you gain from Click Dashboard and CrazyLabs once we partner and test our games together. So the first step would be the prototype stage. In this stage, you have a great concept and idea, and the goal is to test your game on social networks and understand how marketable the game is, meaning what is the CPI and what is the day one retention, if your core gameplay loop is good enough for players to come back after their first day of the install. The second step would be the retention stage, where you have good CPI and decent day one, good playtime. Now the goal is to increase your retention, improve your day three and day seven, add more content to the game, add depth and maybe a meta layer into it. And once we reach KPIs that are good, we move to the monetization stage. At this point, the goal is to have measure ARPU and see how profitable the game is. Once we have a solid profitable game, we then move to the growth stage where we're going to continue working on the game on the live ops stage. So before moving to the first stage is the prototype stage, the most important thing for you to understand is what are the KPIs that you need to reach in order to continue through the testing and publishing process. So imagine that you have a game and you start testing it, but you are not exposed to the CPI and retention and playtime metrics. It's very, very basic and very important for you to understand how your game performs. Now, more than that, we know today that hyper-casual has lots of different subgenres. Each subgenre performs differently in terms of their marketability and retention and playtime. Here, we've created a very transparent table where you'll be able to clearly see and understand what are the KPIs that you need to reach in your game. Imagine you prototype maybe a simulation game or an idle a clicker game or maybe a puzzle game. Each game performs different. So for example, puzzle games usually have very high playtime and retention. Simulation games usually tend to have low CPI. So you'll be able to see and understand what are the KPIs you need to see and reach in each subgenre very transparently. Let's move to the first stage, so the prototype stage. And as we mentioned, the goal is to have low CPI and good day one. How you do that? You set up a marketability test. On Click Dashboard, you'll be able to see almost in real time how your game performs on the marketability test. You'll be able to see the CPI, of course. You'll be able to see the number of installs, but most importantly, you'll be able to see that per network, per creative, per platform. So if you're testing Google Play, or you're testing iOS, or even both, if you test Facebook and TikTok, you'll be able to see the CPI per creative, per platform, per network. And this is very important. Imagine you can test a lot of creatives, maybe 4 or 5, even more. Each creative can be different than another one. Maybe your one creative has a fail, the other one has a different camera view, the third one has a different color palette. How does each one perform? Now you can take these action items and learn how you can improve your next prototype as well. If you see that you're prototyping puzzle games and the fail in the puzzle games perform best, you know that for your next prototype you need to do that as well. If you test different creatives with different camera views on your runner games or your simulation games, which one performs better? What's the color palette that performs better? So it's very important to see this transparent data throughout the testing process and understand how you can implement these action items on your next prototypes as well. Next is the CTR and the CVR. Now, let's focus on those because these are very important as well. The CVR means that the player watched your ad, clicked on it, and ended on in the store. However, maybe some of them don't install your game. How can you understand that? You can see the CVR per creative and per platform. And you can see which creative influences the CVR. Maybe your storefront is not good enough, then you understand you need to improve that. Maybe the creatives are misleading and the storefront is different than the creatives, and you can understand that and fix that. Maybe you can improve your icon. Maybe you can improve your text on your store. So these are the main things that you need to understand once you are able to capture the CVR and you can understand what can you improve in your game. The CTR, of course, is how many players click on your video ad. And if you see that some creatives have low CTR, maybe you can take some action items and test and A/B test different creatives and see which one performs better in terms of CTR and improve your marketability test and lower your CPI. And as of course, the next thing would be the playtime and retention. You'll be able to see the retention and the 24-hour playtime per creative, per network, per platform. And that's very important. The first would be the 24 hours playtime. So imagine if you're not able to understand and see how the players interact with your game in the first 24 hours, it's going to be very hard for you to understand what are the action items that you need to take in order to improve your game. Let's take a scenario. You have decent CPI and decent day one retention, let's say maybe around 25 or even 30% day one. And if you don't have the 24 hours playtime KPI and you don't know that, you might say, okay, maybe I need to add more content, or maybe I need to improve my onboarding. Maybe I need to change my core. Maybe I need to change my controls, but you don't know that. However, in a different scenario where you have decent day one, but you have really high playtime in the first 24 hours, in this case, you maybe understand that players can consume the content on the first 24 hours. This is causing the players to have, for you to have high playtime in the first 24 hours. But because of the lack of the content, then your day one retention can be lower. So if you're exposed to this data, you'll be able to understand that and detect the action items in order to improve your retention. Let's move to the retention stage. At this point, the goal is to improve day 3 and day 7. But how can you do that? Using Click Dashboard, you'll be able to fully see all of the metrics of your game and how it performs. Let's go one by one. The first would be the level funnel. You can see it on a graph, you can see it on a table. On the level funnel, the goal for you is to understand how many players play each level and where do they churn. The goal for you is to have a great level funnel that causes players to churn as less as possible. Of course, you can see that and you can compare the level funnel per version and per platform, as well as your versions of iOS and Google Play. Next would be the churn rate charts. So there are two important things here that you need to measure and understand in order to see how you can improve the game. The first would be the churn between levels. It means that the players finish a level but maybe do not continue to the next level. The next would be churning during mid-level. Now, if you're able to see this data on Click Dashboard, you'll be able to understand what are the action items you need to take in order to improve. For example, if you see churns in between the levels, maybe at this point you need to create a progression that will keep the players playing and give them a reason to continue playing to the next level. However, if you have a churn in during the level itself, maybe it's a different reason. Maybe there is a bug, maybe it's too hard, maybe it's too easy. But if you're exposed to this, you'll be able to see where do players churn and then understand where you can improve your game. The next would be time to complete each level. You'll be able to see on Click Dashboard how many players play each level and how long does it take for them to complete each level. Now, this is very important because you might see some spikes in some levels. Maybe some levels are takes longer to complete, maybe some levels are very fast to complete, and maybe you can see the correlation between the churn rate and level funnel to the time to complete of each level. If you have very long levels at some points and they cause churn, and you can see that they drop in levels or between levels, you'll be able to understand that this level is long, too long, okay, let's reduce the time to complete that level and improve your level funnel. The next would be the fail rate. If you have a fail in your game, you'll be able to see on the dashboard how many players fail on average each level. If there is a level that is maybe too hard, you'll see a spike in the fail rate and you'll know exactly what you need to do in order to improve your level funnel. And as I said, you can compare this per version. So you can see once you iterate on your game, you'll be able to see which level funnel performs better and drill down to the level to understand all of these KPIs and how do they affect your game. The next stage would be monetization. Now imagine you had a great concept, you've passed the prototype stage, you increased retention, and you have a great game. The goal for this now is to improve your reach high ARPU and have a profitable game. How do you do that? Using Click SDK, you'll be able to optimize everything related to the monetization of your game. How many ads do players see? Where do they see the ads? What kind of ads do they see? Interstitial, rewarded videos, banners. What kind of rewarded videos do they see? Which rewarded videos perform best? How often do they see these ads? Where are the locations that specifically can improve playtime and retention or maybe cause churn? Using Click Dashboard and Click SDK, you will be able to take your game and see everything very clearly on a very transparent dashboard. And you'll be able to, together with our game product team, take decisions that can influence your monetization based on this data, based on this transparency. If you are not exposed to this data, you're not able to understand how can you improve your game. And again, you're going to be in a black box, and maybe you're risking a lot here. But instead, you'll be able to log into Click Dashboard together with your game owner and the game product team. You'll be able to decide what's going to be the next scope of your game, what's going to be the next A/B test, and how can you improve your ARPU in order to create a profitable, sustainable game. This is very, very important. The last stage would be the growth stage. Now you have good ARPU and a profitable game. At this point, you're reaching the top charts, and the goal is to sustain your game for as long as possible. Here at CrazyLabs, a very long time ago, we've found out that hyper-casual games can last for a very long period of time. We've created our growth game product owners that work with studios that reach to the monetization stage to continue working on the games for a very long period of time in order to continuously A/B test, improve your ARPU, continue improving your game, create more creatives, and drive more traffic to your game, to reach millions of downloads and potentially a very nice profit. How do you do that? Using Click Dashboard, you're able to fully see how your game performs. What is the revenue that is generated? What's the UA spend that CrazyLabs is spending on the game? And of course, what is the profit? You're able to drill down and you'll be able to see it on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly report. You can see it per platform, and this is very important. And of course, what is the total revenues and profits of your game? Later, you can see as well how many players were acquired, on which geo. You can drill down again to see it on a weekly, daily, monthly, quarterly, yearly basis, as long as you wish. And of course, as we mentioned, the goal here is to improve your game. But on the other side, it's very important to continue improving the marketability of the game. Together with our creative marketing team, we're going to create a lot of different creatives, a lot of different videos, interactive end cards, playable ads, and the goal for you is to understand which one performs better. Where do they, which creatives perform better per geo, which creatives perform better per platform, and you'll be able to see the report and understand what causes these creatives to perform better. So if we have a creative that is maybe with a different fail, maybe you can incorporate it in the game. If you have a playable ad that performs better, maybe you can we can create more of those. The goal is to be as transparent as possible because the growth stage is the most difficult and longest stage of your game, and this game now has millions and millions of downloads and a lot of players. For us and for you, we need to understand what is the action items, how can you improve it, and be transparent as much as possible with it. Next is the A/B testing. When you have a game that is on the growth stage, the goal is to A/B test every feature that is possible on the game itself, on the marketing side, and on the storefront. Let's talk about the storefront. So you'll be able to see the A/B test that we and the creative team is doing. We A/B test different icons, we A/B test different screenshots, different description, maybe a different subtitle, and you'll be able to see how this A/B test influence the traffic and the installs of your game and which one performs better. Next would be different A/B tests inside your game. So of course, once we reach to this point, we want to A/B test anything that can help and improve your game, improve your ARPU, and make the game more profitable. So we'll be A/B testing anything from the level funnel, the monetization strategy, the different meta elements that we can add to the game. It can be the different monetization strategies such as the in-app purchases or the ads interval and different ad locations that you'll be able to integrate in your game. Everything is fully transparent on Click Dashboard. You'll be able to see each group of the A/B test, how it performs, how many players were acquired per group, and what is the ARPU, what is the level funnel, what is the churn rate. Essentially, everything that is related to that group, you'll be able to see on Click Dashboard, and together with our product team, we'll be able to continue creating more successful A/B tests in order to increase your ARPU and the profit of the game. Last thing that I want to talk about is what we call the Publishing for All, our PFA program. We've created the Publishing for All already in 2021, and you can see that we've reached over 150 million downloads to all of these games. So what is the Publishing for All program? The Publishing for All lets you publish your games even if they didn't reach the top charts. You can prototype a game with CrazyLabs and continue through the testing and publishing funnel, but maybe at some point something happened to the game and we couldn't scale it. Didn't have good enough ARPU, or maybe the scale wasn't good enough. Anything can happen at this point. Most publishers will tell you have to drop the game. We will say something different. We'll still publish your game. It's going to remain on your developer account, won't be transferred to CrazyLabs account. We know that these games can still be profitable games, maybe not reach 100 million downloads like most CrazyLabs published games, but they can still generate a significant revenue stream. It's going to be a low effort game, but the goal essentially is to still publish the game under your account to generate a steady revenue stream so you can continue focusing your studio's effort on your next prototype that maybe will generate 100 million downloads. So, as I said, we've published since 2021 a lot of these games and reached over 150 million downloads to all of these games. Again, they remain on the developer account. You will not see them on CrazyLabs account, but this is a great opportunity for you to create a steady revenue stream from the game that didn't make to the top charts. Lastly, some of you might seen a few days ago, we've launched our new Crazy Trend Challenge. This is a great opportunity for you as a studio to submit your battle game to CrazyLabs. You can see all of this information on the landing page on CrazyLabs website. You can get 55% revenue share and $500,000 if you submit your battle games during this trend challenge. So I urge you to look it up and submit your game. And I think I made the time. Am I right? It was exactly 20 minutes. Hopefully we have more time for questions. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you also for a fantastic lecture. I guess, yes, we have some time for questions, and let me check. So the first question is, how many times we can test a prototype if we optimize for low CPI and D1?
So there's no limitation here. On Click Dashboard, you'll be able to see the data, and together with us, we can decide if we should iterate and how we should iterate. I have games that were iterated numerous times because we see that the CPI is still decent until we're able to reduce the CPI. Maybe at some point, both sides will decide this is the time to let go and put efforts on a different game, but there's no limitation.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what do you think about clickers? It's already finished trend or now?
Interesting question. So if you analyze the market, you would see that the biggest problem for clicker games is the marketability side. So not many publishers, I think maybe just even one, was able to really scale a clicker game. But if you compare that specific game to maybe other clicker games or maybe other hyper casual games, although it was scaled, it's still a rather small medium game compared to maybe hyper casual games. I don't think that it's the end of this trend. I don't think that this subgenre can still be a very nice, interesting subgenre in hyper casual. But if you are looking to prototype clicker type of games, I would very much consider how can you make sure that the marketability is good enough. Because as I said, this is the biggest problem for that game and for that subgenre. And the second thing would be how can you identify an interesting concept and a theme that is going to be different than many other clicker games that are being tested throughout the hyper casual genre, because you need to make sure that your game is very attractive and very different. Now, if you're just taking an everyday task and trying to clickerize it, I think it's not going to be successful. But if you're finding a twist to that, if you capture an ASMR moment, if it can be something that might be a bit different than many other clickers, then maybe there is a good opportunity here.
All right, thank you. The next question is, does CrazyLabs publish match 3 games?
So CrazyLabs actually is divided into two labs. We have our hyper casual lab and we have our casual lab. In our hyper casual lab, we publish hyper casual games with studios from all around the world. In our casual lab, we publish in-house developed games, but maybe in the future, maybe it's going to be open for publishing. At this point, we only publish hyper casual games.
All right, thank you. And what is the CPI target for CrazyLab?
So if you go back to the presentation, we'll scroll a bit up, you'll be able to see here what are the KPIs that we have today. And as I mentioned, we don't have strict KPIs. What we're looking at is a game as a whole. What is the CPI of your game compared to what is the retention and playtime metrics. You can have higher CPI. You can even reach 55-cent CPI on Facebook. But we know that many games can still be a profitable game, even if they didn't reach very, very low CPI. We have great examples like Dig Deep and Multimaze 3D. These games never really had very low CPI. They had decent CPI, but with the efforts of having good day one and playtime, we're able to scale these games profitably. So for us, the goal is that you'll be able to see what is your KPI of your game on Click Dashboard. You'll be able to see what's the CPI, what's the day one retention, and what is your playtime. And if you reach one of these combinations, it can be 30 cents and 32%, or it can be 55 cents and 45%. We'll still be able to continue to the testing and publishing funnel and hopefully create a profitable game for that.
All right, thank you. And I guess we have a few minutes for one more question. Do you have trends, news, or articles?
Nice question. So for every Click member that has access to Click Dashboard on a monthly basis, we share our monthly trend report. The trend report is divided into different sections. The first section in the trend report shows all of the prototypes that are being tested that month with everyone, including CrazyLabs and all of other hyper casual publishers. We divided to different subgenres, camera views, themes, controls. It's very nice to see all of the reports of these prototypes, and you can take a lot of action items to understand which themes are working best, which themes and which subgenres, which camera views are being prototyped most, and maybe consider your next prototype according to that. The next section on the trend report would be analyzing the top charts of hyper casual and drill down on new interesting games and how do they perform and what's interesting about these. And the last would be the social media trend reports. And what we're looking there is to analyze and see different trends that our marketing and the creative team is seeing from different social media such as Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, different hashtags that perform best. And then using this, you'll be able to maybe find different new interesting trends to prototype in your next hyper casual games. It can be themes, it can be many other things. We have a great example. For example, Frozen Honey ASMR, one of the games we've published from one of CrazyLabs hyper casual accelerators. It was a trend on social media. Frozen Honey, that's the name of the trend. We've the team saw that trend and used and leveraged that to create a very interesting simulation game. So if you are a Click member, every month you'll be able to see and get access to this trend report.
Okay, Shai, thank you so much for your fantastic topic. I was glad to see you. So, and actually, I hope to see you during our next Hyper Games conferences as well.
Thank you for having me. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.